Hey, good evening. Welcome to Captive Audience. It is Friday, July 11th, and I'm Sunny Danforth, and my Don Anderson, my Wednesday co-host, has joined me tonight. And I've got to tell you, we invited Kevin to come as this is my last scheduled Captive Audience. We invited Kevin to come. He regrets that he can't. He is helping his daughter getting all enrolled in college. That is a monumental task, right? There's lots to do. And but I will let you know that I will be back with Kevin in another episode sometime in the future, undetermined at this point. So Don, how are you tonight?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for
fantastic.
joining me.
No, absolutely. I have one last opportunity to come on a scheduled appearance with Sunny. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Although I almost forgot it because I was so knee deep in some task. But I'm so glad she got me, and I'm here, and I'm thrilled to be here. Although there's a certain amount of melancholy knowing this is our last scheduled appearance, but I, like Kevin, will be calling on her once she gets settled in to periodically join us to blast some Democrats. So,
Oh
so there
yeah,
you
I'm
go.
down for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew you would be.
Right, yeah. Well, we're just going to dive right in. And so tonight I was looking around for some of the stories, and this one just irks me. And it, and I will start it by saying we need to help those that are less fortunate. But at the same time, if you build it, they will come. And what am I referring to? Is the homeless services in Portland. Now Portland has got like $100 million budget shortfall. And yet last year in 2024, local, state, regional, and federal governments plus private philanthropies spent $724 million on direct homeless services in the Tri-County Portland area in 2024.
Unreal.
That is unreal. And yet it is where they're choosing to spend their money and not solving some real issues in Portland and the Tri-County area. And I say, you build it, they will come. But that's also the policies of the governor and the mayor of Portland, especially. When you legalize drugs, then you get the druggies all come in, right? And they were providing a lot of different services: eviction prevention, long-term rent assistance, street outreach, shelter construction and operation are among the many types of services. But when you see that they build some brand new, fancy schmancy, high-end looking apartments, and they say, yes, this is to help the homeless. Oh, but by the way, this is a 50-unit complex, and we're only doing 5 units. Right? And that is the crux of the problem. They spend exorbitantly the cost per door of units, and yet only a very, very small portion are actually going to help people.
So, one of the questions here: were those federal dollars or were those state dollars? By the way,
Those were local,
Mhm.
state, regional, and federal dollars, all combined. I don't know the breakdown of that.
Okay. So here's a couple of thoughts I have whenever I hear about these kinds of things. And the same thing was true of that tunnel project in Seattle. Is another example of this kind of largesse lavished on one particular geography. So if it's state funds, that they're I'm trying to find a nice flushing down the toilet. That's the best way to put it. That Multnomah County decides to flush down the toilet. That means the good people of Umatilla County, Josephine County, you name Jackson County, all of their funds are getting sent to that sinkhole that doesn't directly benefit them. From a federal perspective, you say the same thing. If you live in Great Falls, Montana, or Portland, Maine, or Gainesville, Florida, your tax dollars getting flushed down the toilet. So that the citizens of Portland who keep electing these fools in Multnomah County can flush the money down the toilet. That's why it's so much better for things to be local. Because if you do something local and you choose to waste your own money, A, you're a lot less likely to waste it because it's your money. And
Yeah.
B, you're a lot more likely to demand results because it's your money. So that's why it's so important to localize those expenditures and not take money from federal government. There's 49 other states that have no reason to be spending that money that way. And then however many counties in Oregon should also look at that. I don't want my money flushed down the toilet. If I live in Umatilla County, I don't want to flush money down the Multnomah County toilet, right? So all of that needs to change, for this whole thing to change. It just infuriates me when I hear these kinds of stories. And then the second piece of this is another thing Democrats do. This is why more business people need to be in office like Trump, because you look at this problem and you would say, okay, we're not just going to throw money at this. We're going to throw money at this and demand very specific results, measurable results. And we're going to measure that progress. If we're not progressing, we're going to make changes. And some of those changes might require removing people who aren't competent at getting it done and getting someone in who is. And the government does this sort of thing all the time. If your objective is to minimize or eliminate homelessness, then you should look at, okay, we're going to relook at this in 6 months and we're going to have measurable results. Do we have more or do we have less?
Yeah.
Same thing with unemployment. Do we have more? Do we have less? And if we don't, then we're going to need to change and fix that. But what they do is they just throw money at stuff because at the end of the day, they don't care. In fact, they want more of the problem because that's vote buying for them. And until more of us on the conservative side of the house recognize that they're not interested in fixing the problem, they're interested in acquiring power. That's the whole play with the left.
100%. And Lori, happy Friday. Nice to have you with us. And you're absolutely right, Lori, is they are just doing checks. It's spend, spend, spend. And as to Don's point, it's not measurable results. In fact, there are measurable results. There's more homeless now than there was last year. So they're not solving the problem.
Which is what they want, though.
It is
positive measurable for them because that's more potential voters and more people on the dole. They want that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to change the subject, and this is into voting. And I'm actually on my phone, so I can't post the story. But this is from the Willamette Week, and I'm on my phone because my laptop broke. It's kaput, and they're transferring the data. I'll pick it up tomorrow. But from the Willamette Week, there's a lawsuit that says Oregon's closed primaries violate Oregon's constitution. And the challenge comes as more Oregonians than ever are excluded from primary contests that decide many general elections. Well, in the state of Oregon, so the Constitution says a citizen is entitled to vote in all elections if the citizen meets the 3 qualifications listed in the Constitution, in the Article 2, Section 2, subsection 1 of the Oregon Constitution: age, residency, and registration. Okay, I would agree with that, except the legislators added legislation. Okay, and the Constitution doesn't list other qualifications, but we have Oregon revised statutes that is stating the legislators added some statutes and said, well, wait a minute. And I don't know that all the states in the United States have closed primaries, but Oregon is a state that does. California used to when I was there as a voter. Hawaii does. I've lived and voted in Hawaii. Arizona does. I lived there at one time. And I lived in Florida before, but I didn't vote there. Wasn't there consistently long enough and didn't register to vote there. But so in Oregon Revised Statute 254.3651 states, 1, an elector is not qualified or permitted to vote at any primary election for any candidate of a major for any candidate of a major political party, unless the elector is registered as being affiliated with one of the major political parties. It's quite simple. And I will point out that, and the frivolity of this lawsuit, it is to make headlines and a guilt thing, but all you have to do is register to vote in a political party and you get to help choose. But what our closed primary does is first of all, you're not electing anybody to a position. You are only choosing who you want to be on the ballot as a party, choosing who you want to represent the party in the general election. It's a selection process. It doesn't deny anybody voting. All they have to do is register with a party, and they too can then get to vote in the primary. But even if you're not registered with a political party in the primary, you still are you're still electing sheriffs, judges, other people, maybe other positions, board directors, things that are nonpartisan positions. And then, of course, in the general, everybody gets to vote for everything. So I call BS on this lawsuit, but it is to, I think, show, and because of the courts and the way that the judges are in Oregon, I could see this even forcing primaries to be opened up, except for the fact that we have the Oregon revised statute that says, no, wait a minute, you must be, in order to vote for certain people, a partisan person on the primary ballot, you must be a member of that party. I'm all for it. I'm all for closed primaries to choose who we want in the general election.
Yeah, the thing with Oregon, a lot of these leftist states, is they always want to make things as confusing as possible. And this feels like another one of those efforts. Because then when things are confusing, you can kind of manipulate things to go your way. And it reminds me of things like the ranked choice voting thing that they do as well. It just creates a lot of confusion. So nothing new under the sun here.
No, and this is not the first time that there has been efforts to open the primary. And I will tell you, the failed former Senator Dallas Hurd, who used to be he was also the failed chairman of the Oregon Republican Party, tried to get the Oregon Republican Party to open the primary because actually by statute, the party can do that. Mm-hmm. They are within their right that the body could vote for it. And the body actually at a state central committee meeting, of which I was there, I'm telling you firsthand, we, with a resounding vote, was no, not just no, it was hell no. We're not opening our primary. Why the hell would the party? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the Democrats don't want their primary opened either. And so we said no. We are keeping closed primary because it is where we choose the candidates that we wish. Mm-hmm. Why would we want to open it up to people to vote in a Republican primary mm-hmm. that don't share our values?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
We'll probably try to sneak in and do it anyway. It's bad enough as it is. Why make it easier for them?
well, absolutely. So, anyway, this is brought to you by the nonprofit, Our Primary Voice, and one of its members, Mark Porter, who's a resident of Clackamas County. They have filed the lawsuit in Marion County Circuit Court on June 25th against the state and the state's top election official, who is Tobias Reed, the Secretary of State. But there is a law firm that is associated with this. Let me get down to that. It's with the help of the Harang, it's Harrang. Looks like harangue to me. Harang Long Law Firm that specializes in intersection of politics and policy. So they are representing our primary voices and Porter in this lawsuit. And I'll tell you, it is it's another attack. You know, we voted down very resounding in Oregon, no ranked choice voting. Now, Portland didn't do that. Portland voted for ranked choice voting. Oh, my word.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. So this will be another way. And so I just wanted to bring that up to you because I think it's a lawsuit to sort of rally the Democrat base. But yet we have statutes that says we can have closed primaries, period. That's what and if the thing is if you don't like the law, then you change the law, right? And maybe that's what they're trying to do with this lawsuit.
Yeah, well, they rarely try to change the law through the electoral process. They normally try to change it by judicial fiat is how they do things because they can't win through the will of the people. So they always try to go through the back door through some judges. And we've seen that. Well, that's what Roe v. Wade was about at the end of the day. That's what the Obergefell case was that got us gay marriage. I mean, all of these things are like that with them because they can't win in a fair and open election. So you got to do something slick and backdoor like these voting schemes.
Absolutely. Well, Dawn and I have talked about this. I'm going to on to a different subject. Still in Portland, the most iconic building in Portland, the U.S. Bancorp Tower, the Big Pink, as it's known, has been sold. And it's been sold for a whopping $45 million.
Hey, and when I heard that number, I was wondering why I didn't throw my hat in the ring. I could come up with that. That's almost a number that me and about 20 friends could come up with.
I'm telling you, this is a huge deal. And right now, and so what happened was U.S. Bank moved out of the building. And the Big Pink is facing a potential vacancy rate as high as 60%, 60%. That's huge. And that's since the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this building last sold in 2015 for $372 million. So what is that? A quarter or less than that? No. It's less than 25%, probably like 20%.
See, you have to almost stop again. You have to put this in terms that people can really understand about just what this means. The average price of a house in the West Hills is probably somewhere around, $1 million. That building sold for like 40 houses. Get your head around that.
Wow.
That is like stunning when you think about it. And it's a direct result of the crime that Portland has allowed to fester. They will try to say all day long that it was a result of people working from home. And there's a certain percentage of it that's due to that, but there's no way that that's responsible for 60% vacancy rate. And the thing is that those kinds of rates are true of all of downtown Portland. Yeah. It's not just that building, it's all of downtown Portland. But you think about how long Portland has allowed lawlessness. Remember the demonstrations against Wall Street? That goes all the way back to 2008 or 9 or something. And they let that just fester. I was still working a lot down there then, and it was like disgusting. And you do that long enough to people, they're going to stop going downtown. It takes a long time to turn people off, and it takes a really long time to turn them back on. So now you've created this tremendous amount of distrust. The mindset amongst people is it's not safe down there, and it's not inaccurate. It's true. And so people don't want to be down there. And businesses have been hosed But look at what they did with COVID. They basically put a ton of these small business people out of business. They turned the public off in terms of going downtown. I mean, I went down there a couple of years ago. It's a ghost town. Even after they cleaned it up, yeah, it looked clean. I was down there a couple of summers ago and it was clean. But guess what? There was nobody down there. And that tells you people don't think it's safe. And I don't care how much the media wants to pretend like, or the politicians, I should say, want to pretend like it's safe and clean. We know better. We're not going down there.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
You know? So, and the numbers don't lie. The building's empty because nobody wants to go down there, and no business wants to relocate down there. Think about a national business. You're going to relocate. You want to relocate to Portland, Oregon. First thing you're going to say to yourself is, I'm not relocating to Multnomah County. I mean, maybe I'll go to some other counties in Oregon or around Multnomah County, but I'm sure as hell not going there because they promote lawlessness. Their mayor promotes lawlessness. And so it doesn't surprise me one bit. That is spectacular. Did you say $46 million?
$45 million. $45 million compared to 10 years ago for $372 million.
You realize I mean, I'm serious when I say this. You and I could probably round up about 20 of our best friends and buy that. I mean, that's like incredible.
Yeah. I don't want to buy anything that's got 60% vacancy rate.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to buy anything in Portland either. I'm just making the point how far that's fallen. That building should be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $1 billion, 800 million. I mean,
and that's exactly right. That's what it should be. Now, who bought it? To answer the question is, and this article is from OPB, but it was originally from Portland Business Journal. And so an auto magnate, Jeff Swickard, he owns dozens of car dealerships across the country. That's who has bought it. He said this, quoting Jeff Swickard, "This investment is more than just real estate. It's about reaffirming our belief in Portland and what the city can become again." Well, let's see. The governor has decided that the state is going to pay, your tax dollars is going to pay for a baseball stadium and a baseball team. And so is this part of it's very easy to actually revitalize an area and bring people in, but you have to clear out the issues. And look how quickly that San Francisco did it when Xi Jinping came and says, "Oh, we're going to visit San Francisco. Whoa, wow, let's clean it up." Yeah. They could have done it like this all the time. Mm-hmm. So did they want the real estate? This was something David Darnell and I talked about, going, do they want the real estate to go down because it's gotten so expensive? And then, others with a lot of money will come in and buy it for pennies on the dollar, because this is pennies on the dollar.
I think you could make the case. I'm not 100% there, but I think you can make the case. You look at what they did in Hawaii, your old stomping ground.
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%.
To the ground, and then people who had real money and real property there, their places somehow didn't burn up, though.
Right.
So that looked pretty fishy to me. And I think they still haven't resolved that situation there.
No, I don't think they have either. So the city apparently says they issued a statement on Wednesday celebrating the sale as a way to reinvent the area's image.
Yeah, they're concerned with image. I don't care what you can't put like lipstick on a pig, right?
No.
And that's exactly what it is. Until you fix the fundamental problems associated with Portland, that's passing laws that attract homeless people. A lot of those homeless people didn't come from Portland, by the way. They came from somewhere else. So you're literally recruiting them into your city, and you have laws that are not laws. You won't prosecute criminals, and you let them back on the street. People just aren't going to go down there, and businesses aren't going to locate into a building that's in the middle of hellhole. I just don't think, if that's the thinking, I think they're in for a big amount of disillusionment. However, having said that, if you buy a piece of garbage, if the price is right, even for a piece of junk. If the price is right, if it's low enough, you might buy a house in the worst parts of Detroit for like $5. You know what? That's probably a deal then. Maybe you
It
don't
can
want to
only
buy.
go up in value from there.
Right, exactly. So if it's
You
low
know?
enough, and that's, I think this guy's thinking has got to be that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's such a low price that uh, I'm banking that it's not going to get worse, and it can't get worse. That's what you're betting. Um, so
But listen to this statement. So the mayor says the city's ready to work alongside Jeff to support tenants, boost confidence, and ensure that downtown remains a great place to live, work, and build. We are focused on keeping Portland clean, safe, and welcoming.
listen at the pretense in that language. We're focused on keeping. No, you got to change it. It's we're focused on it's a hellhole. We've created this mess, and we're going to fix it. I didn't hear any of that language.
No, no, not at all. Not like this is an opportunity to turn it around. We've got new goals and let's change things. And no, it's not. And it says, and given the building attracted serious buyers and closed so quickly, that's because the owner of it is going, please get this off of my hands. It's doing nothing but costing me money and 60% vacancy coming. No, thank you.
That's all spin, and
It is. It is.
if you'd have sold it for like 500 million, maybe you could make that case, right? But you gave the thing away, which tells you they couldn't wait to get the hell away from Portland.
Right. Right. So, exactly. So I thought that was quite telling. So it did sell. It's been for sale for quite a while. Yeah. And but amazingly, for a whopping $45 million.
And I'll tell you the other thing, this whole baseball deal is that thing's not actually inked, is it? That Major League Baseball has signed up to do that? Do you know?
Well, I don't know that they have signed up, but they have passed the legislation in this session that has now ended, that they are going to fund building a stadium for a baseball team.
So, but they have so in other words, they're still trying to sell Major League Baseball and coming here is what they're doing. Now,
yes, but they've now said we've got the money. We're going to spend the dollars. We're going to build it, and you'll come. I mean, that's as far as I know. Maybe one of our viewers will let us know if there's some other deal out there. I don't know.
Because I'm thinking there's going to be some serious wishful thinking for that too. Because if you're Major League Baseball, look at that place. Do I want to relocate in the place that won't fix its problems? I want proof.
That also does not support law and order. No. Why do you want to have a riot down there and supporting lawlessness? The druggies, the homeless, and good luck. Good luck.
Here's the other argument you can make.
Maybe I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. I hope so.
But if you're a resident, you're like, why are we spending money on sports? We got more important things to spend money on. Why are we spending money on entertainment? And I've heard those kinds of arguments. I remember when when the Sonics were in Seattle, for example. A lot of the residents made those kinds of arguments. There were arguments like that about the kingdom. Why are we spending money? And that's I think there's a reasonable argument to make. Do sports teams really generate enough money to justify the output for taxpayers? I think most studies show that they don't. I mean, at least to the regular citizen. The regular citizen can't afford to buy a ticket to a Trailblazer game or NFL game anyway. So,
the thing too, in a state that has just cutting hundreds of jobs with ODOT, while ODOT has a DEI slush fund that they don't need to cut the jobs, but the governor wants to, in my opinion, punish the citizens because the legislators says we're not passing your big bill of tax, adding another $20 million in taxes on the citizens of Oregon. And they go, well, now we're going to cut ODOT, but we're going to spend on building a baseball stadium, but we cannot plow the roads for people to get there. I mean, right? We can't fix the potholes either for the people to get there.
Why are we having a conversation about it? And you get down to it, really. I love sports. Nobody loves sports more than me, right? I'm just saying that doesn't make sense. We're talking about a city that spent how many millions for a freaking
Right.
footbridge, so that the wealthiest among us can get to OHSU, right? I can't, was it 40 million or something? And the only thing that you can't drive on it. You can only walk or ride a bike or ride the bus if you're willing to risk your life to get there. And what percentage of the population is ever going to be positioned to use that thing? When you start thinking about the kinds of insanity that they do
Yes.
here,
Yeah.
it's nuts. It's not rational. To go to the other side of the river, and this happened on the Vancouver side, they built a bike bridge over the 205 bridge. Hey, I ride bike more than anybody. I mean, I could calculate. I've ridden a bike over 90,000 miles in the last 30 years because I used to race and train and do all that stuff, right? And I've ridden on the thing, and I think it was like 10 or 15 million to build this thing. And I rode the thing. I don't think I saw another bicycle the whole like 7 or 8 mile stretch on the bike path. It doesn't make
No, it
sense.
doesn't. No.
You know, what is the cost per mile that the average taxpayer is getting out of it? If you just ran that calculation, you're talking what 0.05% of the population will use it, and the other 95.5 will never, but they're paying for it, they never would use it. It's not rational.
No, it isn't. And like Marjorie is saying, and they want people to ride public transportation, but they don't keep the max safe.
Marjorie, you are 100% right. I mean, unless you are armed and got a martial arts black belt and got a taser in your pocket, you have no business.
And Lori says no lack of idiots, and that's true. But I'll tell you, with a motto of keep Portland weird, you got it. That's
they've been successful at that.
They have. Very, very. Well, there is some very good news, I believe. And it happens to be as a result of the One Big Beautiful Bill that they now call the One Big Beautiful Law. And this is an article from OPB because under Trump's new law, Oregon could lose big on solar and wind energy projects. For me, I say hooray. We've got to get rid of this unreliable form of energy that is also consuming our farmland. We have to quit building this crap on our farmland. And Oregon has some of the most fertile farmland. And of course, that's where they want. The wind turbines are an eyesore. They don't last. And I'm just really glad. But that Oregon has a pie in the sky mandate that they want the power grid to be 100% renewable energy by 2040. It is unrealistic. And if you want 100% renewable energy, you can expect brownout, blackouts, and crashes of the entire electrical grid in your state, because that's what happens when you don't have reliable energy. So the new Trump new law, for me, I think is a win for Oregon. Now, this article from OPB is not painting it that way, of course. It's, they're not going to be able to meet their mandate of 100% renewable energy by 2040. And so now the solar developers and the wind energy developers are calling on the state lawmakers to help developers get projects online sooner. Fast track these things. Let us build wherever the hell we want. To hell with the regulations. Let's go.
As awful as this sounds, if Oregon still wants to do it, let Oregon pay for it then. Don't involve Idaho and Wisconsin and, Pennsylvania. If you want to do something crazy, go for it. This is another one of those things as I was pointing to earlier, the Fed should be out of it. Let individual states, we have 50 laboratories to experiment and see what works and what doesn't work. So if Oregon wants to do something insanely stupid, let them do it. The rest of the country can see it and then say, don't do that. It's unfortunate for the citizens of Oregon, but they keep voting for these clowns. So they have agency in this. And then people will simply leave.
Yeah.
Or it'll either change it or they'll just bail the hell out of it. And it's just so insane And it's not, and it doesn't work. But they don't care. That's the other thing. They don't care if it doesn't work because they want you enslaved. They want you on this grid so they can control your movement at the end of the day. A lot of people really don't seem to get their head around that. They want to control your movement. So the next time they have another pretend COVID event, they won't have to ask you to stay home. You will stay home because you can't leave, which is what they want. They'll shut down the public transportation, which you relied on. Easy to close off bike paths, right? Because you won't be able to do that in your little 15-minute city. And your electric cars, guess what? You won't have any electricity, so you're not going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, and so I'm very happy that this was in that big beautiful bill that's now a law. And so, Marjorie, I see your statement of I found out when the windmills stopped working because there's no place to put the hardware. They just sit there so ugly. Well, what happens is they have to keep the unit there until because if the tower and all of that is gone, they lose, if it's vacant for a certain amount of time, they lose the permit to put another one there. But if it stands there ugly, rusting, leaking oil, I don't even know how much oil, but it's hundreds of gallons of oil that are up in those towers, up in those heads for all those parts that are spinning. Bearings need lubrication and it's all turning, right?
Yeah. And their life expectancy is not that long either. I was reading an article about that. They don't last that long. We're not talking about a 30-year life expectancy on these things. It's something like 10 or 15 years, and it costs a fortune to replace them, which is, I think, what you're alluding to. And then there all the environmental. You think the environmentalists would be going berserk about this. The environmental issues of those things being there, besides being an eyesore, they're good at whacking birds.
Yeah.
One would think some of this would matter to these people. But it doesn't.
No, and for years, environmentalists did speak out about it, but they just got shut down. You get shut down, you get canceled, and whatnot. So here's something on this. So to qualify for the tax credits, projects that start construction by July 4th of 2026 have until 2029 to come online. Projects starting after that have even less time with a 2027 deadline. The tighter deadlines make it more difficult for developers to begin construction on new projects and plug into the power grid, as siting projects and getting permits to build them could be a years-long process that involves multiple government agencies. And the law also, this is a great part, the law will also disqualify projects that start after December if they receive materials from China, Iran, Russia, or North Korea.
That's great.
Yes, it is. This is, and
those countries aren't building them.
You know what? They're not. And Trump had said that. Why aren't they full of wind turbines? Because they don't work. It's about reliability, and there is nothing green about wind turbines. Nothing. Same with solar panels. There's nothing green. They did those very clever ad people came up with a great name. Call it green energy. Oh, it's so good. It's BS. I'll tell you what is green is drilling. And our natural gas, it has so much less of a footprint. And then and having reliable energy along with nuclear. I'm all for it.
And one of the things that is not sold enough is how much better life has gotten since we learned to drill for oil. And I can't remember the exact dates on this, but I can just kind of speak to it high level. When back before, one of the greatest environmental things that ever happened was the invention of the combustible engine combined with the ability to get oil out of the ground and figure out how that worked. Because before that, guess what we were doing for oil? They were killing whales. And we pretty much almost wiped the entire population of whales off the earth. Had it not been for, I can't remember the guy's name who discovered that oil out of the ground could do the same thing that kerosene with doing a lantern. And then you had Rockefeller come along and figure out how to like drill the stuff and mass produce it. And then you had Ford come along and figure out how to mass produce cars with a combustible engine. Life expectancy in the world has gone up from somewhere in around the neighborhood of 27 years in 1900 to like 69 years now. It's gone in the United States from I think it was like 40, 45, in 1920 or in 1900 to like 80 now. Think
Yeah.
about that. The single most important measurement uh, of uh, of a growing economy or benefit to mankind is what's happened to life expectancy. And what's happened to life expectancy, you can mostly attribute that to the ability to get oil out of the ground and the combustible engine. Those two things, look what they did for agriculture, for example. Look at how much more food we can produce. It's
Yes.
insane. We still produce more food than any place on the planet. We're still shipping the stuff all over the world rather than being able to use it all here. Our biggest problem is an obesity problem. Get your head around that. When else in human history has that been the problem? Your ability to move around. People get on airplanes. People travel now. They don't even think
No.
about it. Get on the airplane. When I was a kid, nobody got on an airplane unless you were really wealthy. Now everybody can travel and get the benefits of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the computer screen you're looking at, that's all oil in it. The clothes you're wearing, all of it driven by petroleum. And to let these lunatics talk us out of that is like insane. And I'm glad to see we finally have a political class willing to push back on this and start. We need to tell that story. Oil needs to do a much better job of selling that story. The automotive industry, instead of rolling over on this, electric car business, they need to do a better job of that story. And look at how much more efficient cars have gotten over the years. You and I both remember when the smog was so thick in LA, you couldn't even see your hand. Now you go to LA, you can't believe it. It's the one thing it has improved on. The air is
Yes.
clean.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing. You couldn't even see the San Gabriel Mountains when I lived there in the
No.
mid 80s. So, yeah, the improvement in terms of the combustible engine and being cleaner has just been amazing. And no one's speaking to that, or at least
No.
not loud
No.
enough. So we've made what used to be dirty energy far cleaner than it used to be. And for heaven's sake, we know it's far more efficient than what they're calling green energy. It is nice that it's green, but it doesn't produce anything. And if nothing else, it on the electric side, you're doing these batteries, you're enslaving people in these countries in Central Africa to even produce the batteries. So there's
And what else is it also costs more? These so-called green energies are so expensive and they have been subsidized so heavily, way more than the other types of energy. And that's why it's costing us more every month in our electric bills, to where you can't even afford it. It's very, very, and especially the senior citizens, those on fixed incomes, and they cannot keep the lights on, truthfully, because it is very expensive. So I'm really happy that Trump is saying we have to make energy affordable again. And we have to use the ones that are affordable, that are readily available to us. We just have to get it out of the ground, produce it. We also have coal that, through technological changes, we have some of the cleanest coal in America. And yet you can have a coal plant and there's like nothing that's coming out of that chimney.
Absolutely. That fracking, getting better technology in terms of getting the oil where we used to not be able to get it, nuclear. It's like amazing how much cleaner we've gotten with what we've had versus what these green nut jobs are trying to make us do. It's insane. Because here's the other side of that too. The people who are for this stuff, remember, they're never bearing the cost as usual of the things that they're promoting. So if you live in Tiburon, Palos Verdes, Lake Oswego, you go down the list. You don't care what those energy prices are because the price of energy and the price of food is only a fraction of your income. But if you're living in that working class neighborhood, if you're a blue collar worker, if you work with your hands, that's that's a huge percentage of your income. And when the price of gas goes up 20%, you feel that. When inflation's 10% and your food bill's gone up 15 to 20%, you feel that. But if you live in Tiburon, you could care less. So as usual, it's shifting the burden to those who are least able to
Yeah.
afford it. The poor whites, poor blacks, and poor brown people. That's usually who suffers under what these Democrats push. And they're gradually figuring that out, by the way, which is a good thing because the polls are showing that.
Yes, they are. Thank goodness. I'm so glad, and this is a winning, I think this is a huge piece of winning legislation that was in that new bill. There's going to be stuff in that bill that none of us like. There always is in bills, right? But this is one that for me, I feel real good about that we can stop this madness of the, forcing electrification of vehicles and all of that, and getting our energy where the costs are lower, which is actually going to put more money in the middle and lower class pockets for people to be able to afford something else.
Yeah, which is good for the entire country.
It is good for the entire country. So we have, I'll tell you, I've got a couple of good news stories. One, I want to touch on another one. I know we've got a few more minutes here. 6 Secret Service agents are finally suspended. They should be fired over the Trump's assassination attempt. That was a horrific day, an utter failure. It wasn't, well, he almost got shot. No, he was shot. It's by the grace of God that he is still with us and he got elected. But it was an utter failure of the Secret Service that whole day. You can't say, well, it was a comedy of errors. No, this is what they do. This is their only job, is Secret Service of security for our presidential candidates, for our president, first lady, the immediate family members that are living with those people. That's their one job. And it was an utter failure.
I mean, you got to either say it was magnificent incompetence and stupidity, or it was intentional. I don't know what the difference between the two would be. I tried to be patient when I first saw it, and I looked at it, and I said, okay, I really tried my best, but I saw nothing in the days following that to dissuade me from that. I mean, when you look at the fact that people were yelling at them for several minutes ahead of time, there's a guy walking around climbing the ladder. He's got a weapon. He's got a rifle. He's put a ladder on the building. I mean, it's like unbelievable. And it's being called in and nothing happens. The line of sight that wasn't checked out in advance. And then the Keystone Cop scenario that ensued after the shots rang out, where we saw they had to be DEI hires. Nothing else would explain that. You got to at least if you can go to the nightclub, you'd have better security than that. You'd have guys 6'4", 6'5", big enough that they could take the bullet. We've got like not just women, but little women.
My size women, 5'2".
Yeah. There are some things where, I'm sorry, size is a disqualifier, right? If you're over 6'5", you can't be in the cockpit of an F-16. Doesn't matter how fit you are, any of that stuff. You can't be 6'7" driving an F-16. And you can't be 5'2" guarding the president. That's just...
Unless he's 4'9". You can guard the president if they're 4'9" and you're 5'2".
Yeah, then that would be cool. Unless there's that. The other thing is you got to be able to find the holster.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have to be able to do that.
Without looking. It's like second nature. That's where it goes.
No, I don't know nothing about protecting presidents, but I sure as heck know this. You got to push the guy down after he's been shot at. You let him stand up again, right? And it was great that he did the fist pump thing, but that should not have happened, right? It's just, you cannot believe that happened. And we still don't have anything about them, and we're probably never going to have how that transpired. It's just incredible.
No, so these 6 agents, according to the deputy director Quinn, said that they were suspended without pay or benefits for periods ranging from 10 to 42 days and were reassigned to roles with fewer operational responsibilities upon their return. And I'll tell you, I think I hope they're pushing pencils or sweeping the floor. They should be fired. You should be
But here's the
fired
real,
for job failure. You are not
but the
qualified
real,
for.
the real wrongdoer though is the people who hired them in the first place and put them in that position, and
Yeah,
trained them. They should be like facing some punishment here or
yeah,
something. I mean, there's no way that these people should have been in that role. Uh,
no, no,
yeah.
and so it's anyway. I wanted to touch on that one because it gets my blood boiling still. You know that
Well, it
it
should.
it does. Listen, a couple of public service announcements. Walmart has recalled 850,000 water bottles after two people are blinded permanently. The recall impacts, yeah, I went, what the heck is that too, Don?
Like water
The
bottle?
recall impacts Ozark Trail 64-ounce stainless steel insulated water bottles sold via Walmart since 2017. And what happens is the cap can come off and hit you in the eye. The lid can forcefully eject, posing serious impact and laceration hazards. And there are two cases where customers suffered permanent blindness.
Who would think of
Right.
this?
And so this is a story out of the Epic Times. And exactly who would think of this? Well, apparently they were sold for about $15, and the product is silver with a black lid bearing the model number 83-662 on the packaging. And it is, again, a 64-ounce stainless steel insulated water bottle product that is impacted in the recall. And so there's a total of 869 injuries.
I-
Right. So we want to, do a public service announcement. And let's see. The total was of the connected to products recalled. And so, yeah, this is a bad bottle. You don't want this Ozark Trail 64-ounce. What do you want to bet it's made in China? Oh, yes, here it is. It says was manufactured in China and sold only at Walmart stores.
I'd have to laugh at Pat's comment. You got to wear safety glasses to get a drink of water.
Yes. Okay, well, you heard it here on Captive Audience. Okay, if you've got an Ozark Trail water bottle, take it back to Walmart and get a refund.
Don't buy in China, man.
No. And so then there's another one, and this is from the Epic Times. The FDA upgrades a recall on more than 33,000 bottles of blood pressure drugs nationwide, and it is the generic version of Metropolol. And it was recalled because it failed to meet the agency's, criteria. And that criteria was it was not dissolving properly. This is made in India. And the recall notice encompasses Metropolol succinate extended release tablets in 25 milligram doses in 100 count and 500 count bottles. So if you are taking the generic for Metropolol, talk to your pharmacist.
Well, here's an area where I can provide a little expertise as well. It's old expertise, but I think it's still relevant because I was in that industry. If you were taking a generic medication for something that's a condition that could be serious or life-threatening, you really need to rethink that. Because what happens is you have a bunch of generic manufacturers that come on once the patent expires in the original compound. The active ingredient of the original compound is the only thing that has to be the same in a generic. All the other things, the other compounds, the preservatives, those kinds of things, they can be all over the place. So in effect, you're not taking the same drug, and the performance of the drug only has to be within 15% of the original. I'm sorry, there can be 15% variance on either side, which means you could have 30% variance in terms of effectiveness. Most people don't realize this. Pharmacists sure as hell is going to tell you that, because they'll tell you that you're going to save money. What they don't tell you is that they're making more money at you taking a generic. That's why they're pushing it, not because you're going to save money. And you will, right, in the short term. But in the long term, if that drug doesn't, the most expensive thing is the thing that doesn't work. And if it's your health, you ought to be looking at that. So this may not matter that much if it's an arthritis medicine and you wind up hurting a little bit more than you would have been hurting. They get that. But if you're talking about something like heart or antidepressants, things that affect your neurovasculature, you ought to be really questioning your physician about that. I would highly recommend that you, and the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize this, every time you go in for a prescription, it could be a different generic, meaning different manufacturer of that generic, which means that that 15% variance I was just talking about will apply once again. So you have no way to know, with say 6 months, a year of different prescriptions. Well, which one works for you? Hell, you don't know, because you had 5 or 6. In effect, you've had 5 or 6 different drugs. So I would really caution people who think they're saving. And then I hadn't even laid on the fact that the drug comes from India on top of that, or Mexico, right? I'm always amazed how people are willing to take those kinds of risks for something that's your life. This isn't like a tire or a pair of pants or something. This is a cardiovascular drug we're talking about. Metropolo, that's like that drug works by slowing your heart rate. That's how it works. You want to like fiddle with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And that's really great information, Don, because most people don't know what you just said. I did, only because a doctor that when we were in Panama, my husband saw a great doctor there, and he told us about, you know what, don't take generics. Don't take any generic like this because of that 30-degree range. 15 either side, it might not work at all good enough for you, or it's working too good for you. Now, with a pain pill, that might be all right, but not for something else that's treating your blood pressure or heart failure and things like that. So that is a thing. And I don't think that enough people talk to their doctors or the pharmacist about that. And generics, very important. And some insurances won't fill anything but generics anymore.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Now, and the thing with that is the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? If you're loud and proud, you can get what you want, right? But you got to be loud and nasty and push for it. But you can get that, but you just might have to fight for it. And this is the thing. Once again, the uneducated, those who don't have that skill, those who can't read, process information, they get hosed by this stuff. Those of us who do have those attributes and abilities, you don't get screwed by this. The mere fact that you're watching this show, you're not likely to get screwed by something like this, right? But again, it's the poor among us who get hosed by these companies doing this stuff. And to your point, the insurance companies make deals. They make more money when you get these generics in that store. They do rebates. They make more money. A lot of times, either the doctor or the company that they're working for gets paid bigger bonuses for pushing that stuff. They're not going to tell you that because, of course, it wouldn't be in their best interest to tell you that. And if they did tell you that, you go get another doctor, which you should.
100%. Also, you can tell your doctor to write the prescription, no substitutes, no generics. The doctor can write that, and even your insurance will then have to honor what the doctor has written. That's my understanding. So I've had to do that before, and there we are.
Yeah, and at least you force the conversation. I mean, you might get to the pharmacist and tell you, well, that's going to cost you $400 a month or something, right? At least you know where you stand, and we can have it, and then you can start having the discussion around that.
Yes.
But you definitely want your physician to write do not substitute, because they'll substitute, and they won't even tell you they're doing it, by the way.
Yes.
So anyway.
Now, one other good news story, I think it's a good news, is, and this is from the Epoch Times. Do you recall? So the divided, it was a 2-to-1 ruling from the U.S. Appeals Court tosses the plea deal for the accused September 11 mastermind. Well, you remember under Biden's administration, they said, "Oh, we've got a plea deal with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's over at Gitmo. He's not going to get. They've taken the death penalty off the table." Well, guess what? In a 2-1 vote by the U.S. Appeals Court, says, nope, we've just tossed that appeals court out. And I am so glad, because I think the death penalty needs to be on the table. And it's about time that it's enacted, quite frankly.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think you should give them options, though, really. I think they should have the option of the guillotine, the hangman's noose, the firing squad, or lethal injection. Give them choices. We're a country that loves choices.
Well, absolutely. And they're all effective.
Oh. Every one of them. Yeah, they work every time, unlike your vaccines.
Because I was really angry that they had a plea deal that took the death penalty off the table for this, and so I'm glad that now it's back on. We'll have to see where this all goes. So that's what we've got for tonight. And Dawn, thank you for joining me so much. I'm sorry Kevin couldn't be with us, and thank you to our audience. We appreciate you very much. Like and share, and I will be back occasionally.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad she's going to come back. Otherwise, you all are stuck just with me. But I'll do my best to live up to the standard that the great Sonny Danforth has set forth. So thank you, Sonny. I have loved working with you on a consistent basis, and I'll love it even more because it'll be less often. How about that?
Yep. Okay, Dawn. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, Dawn. We've been a great team, and I look forward to coming back as a guest sometime.